Hi everybody, I'm Tim from troutandfeather.com, and in this fly tying tutorial I'm going to do a review of the Stonfo Kaiman. Stay tuned. Fly tying may have a steep learning curve, but before you learn all of those tips, those techniques, before you start buying those gadgets and those really cool tools, you have to have something that's going to securely hold your hook in place. Enter the fly tying vise. As I love to say, if you ask 10 people about their favorite vise, you're very likely to get 10 different replies because people just tend to start tying on one vise and they stick with that vise or that series or brand for a very long time. So it can be difficult to learn about some of those new ones that are out there. Now that's a great thing for all of us because there are so many just excellent vises on the market right now, and I really want to kind of highlight the Stonfo Kaiman in this video. Now, I first started using the Stonfo Kaiman years ago and I loved it, and I promised some of my YouTube viewers that I would come out with a review of the vise. But then came along the Stonfo Transformer and I just fell in love with that vise. It became my standard go-to vise every day. In fact, I have a review of that one on my YouTube channel. I'll put a link down below in the description. Then after about 2 seasons of tying on the Transformer, the Kaiman started coming out a little bit more and more. I was bringing it with me to do demos because it was just so easy to travel with. And everywhere I brought it, people kept asking about it. They wanted to know about some of its features. They wanted to just pick it up. And they were really just surprised by the quality and just the craftsmanship that went into that. So I apologize for not doing this review earlier, but it is now time to do the review of the Stonfo Kaiman because in my house I have 2 main tying stations and it's permanently set up at one. It's just now kind of sharing time. It's splitting time with the Stonfo Transformer. I still love the Transformer. You'll probably still see that in the majority of my tutorials on YouTube, but the Kaiman definitely has a place. And I want to talk about a lot of its pros, some of its cons, and just give you an idea of how it works and what it looks like with different hooks in it. So to tell you just a little bit about Stonfo first, they're an Italian-based company and they've created a lot of different vices and tools over the years. Some really neat tools are part of the Elite series and you've probably seen them on my channel before. Now Stonfo's done a really great job. They've really seemed to up that fly tying game in regards to their vices. I mean, this is the fall of 2017. They have the Kaiman, they have the Transformer. Those are 2 that are just incredible. And they're also coming out with a travel series of a vise. It's really cool. It fits this really small area and it's a wonderful little vise you can just throw in any bag and bring with you. I would promise a review of that one, but who knows when that review will actually come out. But Stonfo has been doing a lot of great things. Now when the Kaiman first was introduced, it created a major splash in fly tying because it was just very durable and it could hold just this really wide range of hook sizes, and that's a benefit to all of us. So I'll be sure to show you what it looks like with a really small hook in place, kind of a standard size trout hook. Then I'll go with saltwater and some larger streamer style hooks in the vise because it can really just hold that range and it does a great job at doing so. Now what we're going to do in this video is just change the camera angle. I'll show you this vise close up. I'll talk about some of its tools. I'll talk about some of the different, let's not say characteristics, but just some of the really neat features that it has. And then I'll kind of zoom back out and I'll tell you a little bit more about the Stonfo Kaiman. This is the Stonfo Kaiman. Let me kind of give you a tour through this vise. I'll place some hooks in it and then we'll kind of move on from there. For starters, whenever you take this out of the packaging, the vise basically looks like this. It comes with very few parts. That's what's really nice about it. The base itself is made out of plastic. It's definitely a heavier base. To assemble everything, you simply will place this stem against this piece, tighten it, grab your Allen wrench, and tighten down just a little bit more. And that's it. It's ready to go. Now the first thing that you kind of notice about this is you can also adjust. There's a spot on my side where I can adjust it as well, but whenever I first got this, it was really easy to just manipulate and move it all around. There are so many different configurations you can use this vise in. The other thing to note is that if I unscrew this, it's going to act nearly as a rotary. And it basically is a full rotary whenever you have this in that straight position. I don't tie like that the majority of the time, but I want you to be aware of it. Whenever I start to tighten this piece up here, I can turn this and it clicks in place every 360 degrees. So that's really nice to at least know there is a locking spot, and then there is a point where you can just tighten this down and it won't turn anymore. I tend to leave it a little bit looser let's see, somewhere around, right around there, just so I can move it, look at different angles, different sides of the fly, and then have it go back to the locking position. I tend to tie, for most of my trout flies, with the jaws angled up just a little bit. The other thing you have to note is it's really easy to use. To open these jaws, you simply will grip this and pull, though it can definitely be tough. It's extreme, it's under a lot of tension in there. So I really prefer to have it facing this way whenever I open. The one thing that I want you to note, and I'm hoping the camera can do a decent job of picking this up. Whenever you look at these jaws, at this jaw that's on the bottom or the closest to the camera, there's a little groove in it. And you'll see the groove in this side, and you may be able to see it in this side as well. And that groove is in there to really help hold some of those larger hooks. And it definitely will hold them. Now the packaging says that this holds hooks from a size 28 down to a size, or I should say up to a size 5/0. So we're going to test that out. The first hook that I'm going to grab is a TMC 518. This is a tiny, tiny hook. It's a size 32. These are almost hooks that we just like to have fun with. But it can hold a size 32. Even though it says it goes to size 28, there's a 32 in it right now. It does a decent job. Now, my shank may not be the straightest, but I at least want you to see that. Now, let's get into some hooks that are really going to be a little bit more applicable. For starters, I'm going to go with one of my favorite dry fly hooks. This is a Honik H130 BL. It's a barbless. Let's take a peek at this one. I'm not going to place this hook in that groove, only because I don't need to. Now with this one in there, you can see no problems, it's going to hold. The more pressure I put down, I'm just bending the hook. The hook's not moving at all in the vise. Easy to get out. Let's jump up a little bit. We're going to go with another Honik hook. This is their 970 BL. It's a streamer hook. And with this one, you'll notice if I keep it on the outer edge, out of that little gap, and I try to turn, you'll see it can bend really quick. You can definitely damage your jaws if that would pop out and they would really just slam together under a lot of tension. So with these ones, I'm going to place it back a little bit. I'm going to find that spot where it's locked in place. Now it's locked in place. You can see I'm bending it. There's definitely a lot of metal there. Let me tighten this up just a hair. Now, you may note though that that shank may not be that perfect degrees that you want, so you'll have to adjust it accordingly. Let's keep on trying some other hooks. Let's jump to a carp hook. This is an Allen Fly Fishing S201H. Definitely a really thick metal hook. Place this in. I have it just locked into that little groove again. A lot of tension. Not moving at all. Doing a great job. Now I'm going to go with a salmon hook. This is a salmon fly hook. It's a size 6. I talk a little bit about these later in the video, because whenever I've talked to certain salmon fly tiers, they're afraid of using certain salmon hooks, the older ones, because they're afraid that because there's so much tension, it will actually just kind of flatten the hook. Now this is a newer salmon hook, it's not moving, but also it definitely hasn't flattened it. So it's under a ton of tension. I wouldn't say that much that it's going to damage older hooks, but I'm not an expert, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. All right, we have a few more hooks to try. Let's go with a stainless saltwater hook. This is a size 1. Same thing, I'm going to place it in that groove. Not moving at all. Let me put a little more tension on this one to see if it will. No, just bending the hook. So far, so good. We got a couple more to try. This is a funky bass hook. Definitely a little big gap in there. Whenever I get to these large gapped hooks, I want to put them further back. So I want more of this vise holding on to it, kind of like that. So I'm no longer in the gap, I'm a little further back. Hook's bending, not moving. And then finally, let's go to this big jig hook. It's an Allen Fly Fishing J200. It's a size 5/0. Right now I'm in that gap, and I'm putting a lot of strain on this, and it's not moving. So I want to just kind of point out for everybody that I know I've seen some people talk about this vise on Facebook, and they've said that they thought that it wouldn't hold the larger hooks. Now, that was the largest hook that I had, and probably the thickest hook was the carp hook from Allen Fly Fishing. This is a really thick one. And you saw that it's really not moving. Once you, well, that one is, but if you have it locked in that little spot correctly, it doesn't move. If you do have a super thick hook, more than that 5/0, you can place it further back, and you're just going to have more of the jaws clamping against that and really not allowing that hook to move whatsoever. Now in some cases, whenever I'm tying streamers in this vise, I'll just go back to my Honic hook, especially when I'm going to be rotating it, I'm going to treat it more like a rotary style vise. I tend to straighten this, then I place the hook in this way, and depending on what's going to happen in the tail, I like to try to get this shank as straight as possible. Then whenever I'm turning it, it's not going to necessarily turn right on its axis, right on that shank, but it's going to be pretty close. Now if you want to get it even closer, more like that rotary style, you can go there, and you're a little bit better. I think I have it angled up just a hair. But I really want to stress that this vise is excellent whenever you're looking for a vise with just great holding power. That's without a doubt the reason that I turned to the Stonfo Kaiman. If I'm thinking about that rotary style vise, does this rotate? Sure, but it's not that rotary style in that hook is rotating perfectly on its shank, such as the Stonfo transformer does. So this vise has its application. It does a great job holding hooks. I mean, you saw it holding a size 32 the whole way up to a size 5/0. So it does an excellent job with that. It's got a great look to it. And again, it really can just grip that hook if you need it to. Now let's change the camera angle back, and I'll really go into more of the pros and cons about this Stonfo. Now that you've seen a close-up of the Stonfo Kaiman, let's return to those two factors that we have to take into consideration before purchasing a vise. That's price and range of styles. You probably noticed from the close-up that this vise ties the whole way down to a size 32, if you tie that small. And it's definitely capable of tying those larger styles, saltwater and those large streamer hooks. To share with you my personal tying, I really prefer to tie trout patterns, though I also tie some smaller saltwater flies, carp flies, and lots of warm water flies. So kind of take all that into consideration. For the price, that's a little bit more interesting. If you go on eBay, you'll see this vise selling as low as $185 from a very reputable dealer out of Poland. In the United States, I've seen it sell for around $250. So if your range is somewhere in that $185 to $300 kind of price value, then by all means take a closer look at this vise because it's one that I love. I recommend it to many others, and so many have replied to me over the last few years that they bought it and they have really loved it, and it's now their everyday vise, just like it is mine too. I also mentioned the pros and cons, and I have to talk about those because they're kind of uniquely related. The greatest pro in my mind is that this is just an easy to travel with vise. If I'm going on a fly fishing trip or doing a demo, it's just so nice to pop the stem out, place it with the base, pack it away. Whenever I show up somewhere, put it back in, lock it. It's that easy. Now, whenever people come up to me and they see this vise, they pick it up and they notice right away it's heavy. And to me, that is definitely a pro because you want something to just be sturdy and maintain its position while you're tying. To me, it's a sign of the quality. However, when you look a little bit at that base, some people have noticed that it's plastic versus that presentation style. So understand that if you do purchase it. Some of the other things that I love about it is that it holds a hook really tight, and it's because of that strong tension. But make sure you're able to really grip well with your left or right hand to open the vise because it definitely requires a lot of tension to get it open. Now, whenever it shuts, it flattens. I've talked to some salmon fly tiers that have said they're a little bit leery about using this with some of the classic salmon hooks because those hooks can be flattened easily. And because this vise has so much tension, it may do so. Now, I don't tie salmon flies yet, but that's something, again, to kind of factor into your decision if you're going to purchase this. And again, if you're someone that ties salmon flies, can you mention down below in the comments section, is that something that we really have to kind of talk about with this vise, especially if you've seen it before? The other thing that is just a major pro in my mind is this vise's ability to rotate. It's a rotary style vise. So if you're tying, you can look at a fly from so many different angles. It's great to kind of see the backside of the fly while you're tying to make sure everything looks right. If you keep it perfectly straight, it's more of a rotary style. It's almost considered an inline rotary vise in that sense because then that fly will just turn perfectly on its own hook. However, if you're really after a rotary style of vise, then in my mind, this is not a true rotary. In that case, I would kind of point you to that Stonfo transformer because that's kind of set up a little bit more in that rotary style of vises. Can this one do it? Sure, but it's not its bread and butter. The bread and butter of this one is really its ability to hold so many hooks and hold them well. But with all of that said, thank you so much for watching this video. But more importantly, if you have any questions or comments, leave them down below in the comment section or email me at tcammisa@gmail.com. If you'd like to see a close-up picture of something, or if you'd like me to measure something, or just ask a question about the vise, then by all means, just ask away and I'll try my best to help you, because I know it can be such a tough process when selecting a new vise. There are so many vices out there, and if you ask so many different people, you'll get all these different choices, and trust me, that's just unfortunately part of the process. But at the end of the day, you want to know that you have a really quality tool, and in my mind, this Stonfo Kaiman is definitely a quality fly tying vise. So again, with that being said, thank you so much for watching this fly tying video. If you'd like to watch more like this, you can visit my website, which is troutandfeather.com. I also have an Instagram and Facebook account under that Trout and Feather heading. As I mentioned before, any questions, direct them to my email, tcammisa@gmail.com, or you can leave them down below in the comment section. If you're someone who's used this vise, I'd love to hear from you down in that comment section, and also to really help others in making that decision. What do you think of it? What are some of your pros? What are some of your cons? And would you recommend it ultimately to others that are tying? Well, once again, thank you so much for watching this fly tying video of the Stonfo Kaiman review, and I'll see all of you next time.